we separated into two halves, and then where is my let me try to open the notebook also if I can find it. Yeah, so this was the notebook that we used yesterday. So that this was Python module. Then we talked about object orientation in Python, very basic things. Then we talked about a little bit about inheritance by developing the student class and saying that student can inherit common properties, okay, from a person, keeping in mind that some at a later stage I might be asking you to also develop a software for a teacher. Okay, so you developed person first, and then you inherited your student from the person, the common properties. And then if I ask you to do it for the teacher, you will again inherit from person, because teacher and student are have common features, which is a person. Okay, so this we did. Then we tried also discussed about how you override a mother method in a daughter in the daughter. This we discussed a little bit. We also looked at some meta information with the help of dir. You remember, this is the only one we have used so far, and if time permits I will show a few more. Then we also tried to discuss about operator overloading. Okay, and I said operator overloading would be very useful if you want to give your object a natural look and feel. Okay, instead of calling methods, you will define you have a method, and Python gives you some operators. So if you implement those operators which will call that method, then instead of calling the method, you can also use that operator in your code. Okay, that was overloading, and we try to do it with an integer to some extent. I did not go into a lot of detail. Then we also developed the track class to look at the accessors, how you access information which is there in a class. And there also we use this properties decorator in order to change the look and feel, so that as if it will look like you are accessing the variable itself instead of calling a function, but at the behind the hood you are actually calling a function. So I think as far as object orientation is concerned, we did up to that. Okay, up to the decorator. And also I briefly mentioned what is a class method and what are static methods. So I said that in a class, the methods which are associated with the object, that means self, they are object methods, okay, or member functions or member variables. But other than that, you can also club together certain related functionalities. Some of them may be accessed through the class itself, then they are class methods, and then you need decorator. And some of them may not have the best place, may not be the class for some functions, but they are somehow related, so you also keep them there and you call it static method. For example, this has neither the reference to a class, not reference to any self, but it is there. So to help Python to create proper boiler plate code, you just add the decorator. So you see that Python language is extended by the decorators.
I think we have a question.
Yes.
Yes, that's
Okay,
yeah,
just
you
a
can.
moment. So this is let me check. Okay, now we can. Okay, I just wanted to
That's
summarize what we
yeah, you
discussed
have.
about object orientation. Now you can go ahead and ask me questions.
Yes, that's you have raised hand. Can you hear me?
Diksha,
It's better if you can write in the chat. If you have any question, you can write in the chat, and we'll forward it to Subir.
yes, from time to time I should go back and look at the chat
Sure.
box also.
Okay. Yeah, you may continue, sir. Yeah. I think.
Okay, so this we discussed. Let me see what. Okay, so this we discussed and this we did, and that's it. See, this was about object orientation. Then I said a few things about the input output, like std in, std out, std error, which come from the sys module. And we also discussed about how you can, on an if you are really using the Python command line, how you can redirect the output of your work which you are doing interactively on the command line to a file. This we showed. Okay, that was a slightly dirty trick, but we did. And then I think the last thing was how to open a file. And in our case we opened a CSV file, which is comma separated file. Then we looped over the file. We got each line. We stripped the white space from the beginning and the end. Then we split that line against comma so that we have a number of fields. And then we could take some decision. For example, in that example, we had players.csv, which was the cricket players, and we only wanted to print those entries where the country is India. Okay, so if I go back again and if I click on the, I don't know whether it will show this one. Okay, this shows a raw format. So this was the file name. So player, country, test run, ODI run. These were the four fields. These were the four fields of the CSV file. And then CSV is comma separated. Sometimes it could be called also TSV, which is tab separated. They but it's okay. CSV is probably better. And you have to understand that CSV is a very, very standard format, although it's a text format, and it is the most widely used data exchange format, I think, these days. Okay, so you cannot really ignore it. What you do essentially, you write your CSV file, okay, and you compress it so that you reduce the size by a factor of 10 or 12. Okay, then you can exchange it to others, and then on the other side they will uncompress it. They will be able to look at the data and so on. And for example, for open data, if you really want to use your open data, which will be, I think, taught by somebody in this preschool, you will see that you not only use root files to do HEP open data. Sometimes they also have reduced information data which is kept in CSV file, which is much reduced, but then you can there will be some documentation, and you can also do your analysis using the CSV file. So you have to learn to, and as you know that CSV file can be easily opened in the data Python data frame, and you can do the analysis. Okay, so this is a very quick summary of what we discussed yesterday. And because Ritesh said I don't have to go and discuss about libraries in Python, and I can stick to how to handle white space separated files. Okay, that's you can. Okay, so for
Sumita, there is
example,
a question.
Partho, you were saying something?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, I saw how to handle white space separated, not files, you mean fields, I hope. Okay,
yeah, yeah.
so if instead of let's say this entry, if it is separated by a single space or n number of spaces, how would Python do it? So you can first of all check what is the default. Let's try to implement that, and we'll see what happens. So let me go back here and copy to, let's say, text. Okay, and I can, this you can forget for the time being. Next. So now you have a file uh, which is players.txt, and you see that now they are separated by space, all the fields, not comma, because I replaced comma with space. And by the way, I just want to show you this tremendously powerful command which is in Perl, that you can in place. This is for Linux command. So Perl is a programming language equivalent to Python, but there what you can do is you can in place replace some information with some other information, and the file name remains the same. That's what I did. I copied players.csv to players.txt, so that still the commas are there, because I just copied the file. Then I executed this line which replaced all the commas with a space here. Okay, and you still have the same name. You don't have to rename the, for example, if you have say acd said, you can also do that with in Linux. So this is one command. If you are curious, I just wanted to tell you. Now let us try to uh, build a code, okay, and see what happens. So I will build a code like this. F equals to open, then you give the name players.txt, okay, and then you say for line in F, because this is the file handle, and I told you this can be iterated. We mentioned many times. So now you can iterate over the file handle, and then you can say line equals to line dot strip. So this way you are just stripping white space around the line, not inside the line, around the line. So if there is something in the beginning of the line, or whatever you have, including new line, when I say white space, that also includes new line in that sense. And then I can just print it. If I print it, okay, and if I execute it, then firstly players.txt, no such file or directory. While where have I done that? Players. Oh, something wrong. Uh, so let me also copy, because maybe I have a different directory. Players.text to the no, lecture 3. Yes. Okay. So now it should work, because the directory was wrong. So you can see that I have printed. What I did is, if I don't have this line, then you can also see what happens, and it will add a new line here. Okay, because after every line there is a new line character, so you have a new line here. So if I strip it, the new line is gone, and you have this thing. Now for each line, I want the field. Fields equals to line, and line has something called split. If you do it, because we are talking about only one space here. If there are many spaces, we have to understand what to do. This is slightly difficult. If you have tab, you can also do tab, etc. You can put tab, but for the time being, let's put it this way, and let us print the length of each line in terms of fields. Okay, so you can see that I have the line printed. Then I split each line into fields in terms of space, and the number of fields is 4 everywhere. Number of fields is everywhere. So if I want to do exactly what I did, so if let me check the country. If fields of 1 equals to India, then print line. So this was the exercise that I showed somewhere. Okay, I showed not here, maybe this one here. So this was my earlier code. Now instead of comma, I am splitting against new line and I am doing the same. So you can execute it. If okay, I will not. I will comment this line out because otherwise it will not give me the correct results. Are you happy, Deepsha? Okay, so I think so. This way I have plans to talk about regular expressions. So if you have a very complex, if you have a very complex pattern of white spaces. So let us say you have a data file. You have a data file. Let us even put it like this and see what happens, whether it works. Mm, players.text. So let us say if it doesn't work, then we will try to solve later on. So what I'm doing is I am changing the number of the white space, okay, randomly, so that you still have 4 fields, but to separate one field to the other, the total number of spaces is variable now. Okay, so this may also happen. So what will happen to this code then? Will this work? Let us see. So 1 is gone. Okay, why is 1 gone? Hmm, interesting. So
So for there, I think the space was not one, so
yeah,
the
so
first element was not India.
yeah, exactly. So everything will be gone now. I hope everything will be okay. So you have to now count how many spaces you have. So either, I mean, offhand, I don't want to really solve it. We can certainly solve this with a regular expression like expression. If you have more spaces, I'll come back to that. I just think I'll come back to that. But this is one problem that we want to handle in the regular expression class. Probably not today, but tomorrow. So what I want to I okay, if there are other questions, then I can try to answer. How do we specify which directory players.text? Okay, so in this case, it is uh, because if you are on your local directory, you can give the name also. For example, if I have, sorry, if I have this, so in principle, I could paste it here because my the value the notebook is in this directory. Without specifying also, I was able to read the file. Okay, but if my text file is in a different directory, because my notebook is open from lecture 3, but my file resides in lecture 2, lecture 4, then I can give the full path name or relative path name. Okay, so I am in lecture 3 now. I go one step back. Okay, then I move to lecture 4 because lecture 3 and lecture 4 are at the same level. So in principle, this should also work. So either if your data file and your notebook, if you are using notebook, are in the same folder, then you just name the name the file. If they are in a totally different place, then it is always better to give absolute path name like I did. If you know that it is in the same hierarchy, but one step back. For example, if player was just one step back from where you are, your notebook is, then you say dot means go one step back. But if you really look at it, I am in lecture 4, but my notebook is at lecture. So I have these two folders, lecture 3 and lecture 4. And my uh, notebook is in lecture 3, this one. This is the one which I am referring to, lecture 3. So I can say my file is in lecture 4, I am in lecture 3. So and lecture 3 and lecture 4 are at the same level, okay, under 2025. So what I'm saying that I am in lecture 3, so I'll go one step back and then I'll go into lecture 4. That's what I showed, lecture 4. So there are certain ways. So if you are confused, if you know that your data file is somewhere other than your area where your notebook is, you specify the absolute path name, okay, like that, the one which I did. Okay, this is the absolute path name. I start from slash home, my username, then desktop, blah blah blah, etc etc. Is that fine? Okay, very good. For some reason, my code is not printing anything. Could it be because of my text file? Does it give you any error, or it doesn't give you anything? Let's put it. Let's try to play with that. Let us say
Sir, it does not give any error.
it doesn't give any error also. Okay, so let us try to see what it tells me. So I have this, no, I have this, and I was printing this, and then I said I have already screwed up my stuff. So lecture 3 players.text, I will put it back again to single space first. And then I would expect that it gives me some error. Okay, so now it works. Let's say by mistake I put players.1.text, which is not there in that directory. Then what will happen? Then if I try this, it tells me that file not found error. So that's that way Python. I think the whole beauty of Python, one of the most important features of Python is that it will not actually crash your program. It will continue to give you exception on everything that you make mistake with. Okay. So here, for example, it clearly says that there is no file or directory. So if you have that code and your file cannot be opened, it will be warned. Okay, you will be warned that no such file or directory. So just check whether this is the case. Okay, it should work both on the Python command line as well on the notebook. Okay, other questions? Is it possible to deal with more than one white space using just skipping the white space only, not the characters? I mean, certainly you can roll your own, but the question is, with the split function, which is efficient, which is inbuilt in a string, with a string, you can do, let us say Python string split, and see, because I don't remember exactly, but you can check. So you see that if you simply split the default, let us say what? Okay, so default split, we try first. Nothing, whether this works. Okay, and I go back to this, and then I try, and you see that you still get India. Now I change my data file. Okay, and see what happens. I put two white spaces before one entry. Okay, and and you see it works. So to answer your question, you don't have to go far. If you just split, actually that will take care of white spaces, not only white space. So let's see. You see that this line has only one space in between Tendulkar and India. This line has two spaces in between Gavaskar and India. But both of them could be found because you did not specify inside the split against which space you actually want to split. So that means it will default. There is a default. That default is good enough, which will split against single white space or even more than one white spaces. Let us see whether it also works with something else. So uh, I change my line again. So I have this instead of putting a white space. Now I press a tab here. So I just pressed a tab, and let's see whether tab is considered as white space. This I don't remember, but we can see. You see, even tab is also included in white space. So as I said, there are sometimes you have CSV file, comma separated file. There are also TSV, which is tab separated file, value file. So in both cases, Python will work in case of comma by putting comma inside as an argument to split. And if you want to split against white space, n number of white spaces including tab, you just use the default. You don't have to say anything because that is the default. So I think that I already answered both the questions. Okay, so will escape sequence like n work? What do you mean exactly? You mean inside the split? Let us see. Yes, it should work. Let us see what happens. So I have this. I put it back. I put one space. Okay. So now I go to the code. I go to the code. I get a copy of the code, and I put it back here. I don't strip. I don't strip because if I don't strip, there is already a new line. Okay, and I say new line. So you are as if splitting against the new line. And let's see whether this works. Okay. What is your guess? Will that work? Let's try to print some field. Print fields 2. Okay. So I am opening players.txt. So there are each line has 4 fields. Okay, this I know. They are separated by single space now. I am not stripping. That means after each line, there is a new line encoded. Okay. So then I take each line, which is really each line, and then split against the new line. So how many fields? How many fields now do you think you will get here? This is your quiz.
The number of lines which were available there, so that much amount of fields.
Are you sure? Because you are splitting the line, single line. You are reading line by line. Here you are reading line by. What you said is also useful, but in a different context. But in this context, I am reading in a for loop. Okay, line by line. I have a file. I am reading the file in a for loop. So I have only one line here. If there are 1,000 lines in the file, my line here is now just single line, and this line contains the 4 fields plus a new line character. So if I split it, So I will, let us see what happens. We go back to basics. This you can do. We just split it without stripping anything, and we print the number of fields that I get after it is split, the list. So if I enter, how many of them you see? Only 2. Because you have a new line, and after the new line there might be some white spaces. So if I have 2, if I print now, let's see what happens. If I print, if you don't understand, please let me know. This is this. So I print the first one. Okay, I print the first one, and you see that the first one, this is the number of fields 2. The first field actually is the whole line, because you are splitting the line against a new line, and the new line is at the end of the line. So whatever you have before that new line character, everything is now put into field 0. And what is then field 1? Because there are 2 entries, and that should be empty. So this is the new line here, and there might be something after that. Okay, and so that is, so if you strip, that is why you strip, so that you strip also the new line and whatever remains after the new line. I don't think I could convince you. Let me still check. Oh, you already tried to give some answer. So who said 2? Somebody said 2, which is correct, but I don't know whether it was clear to others also why it could be 2. It could also be 1 if you did not have any character, okay, before after the new line. But that I cannot really ensure whether there is a character. It will depend on the system, whether it always assumes a character after the new line. Then it will be 2, because I'm splitting against the new line. If I navigate, I cannot see any extra character. For example, let's put it this way. So if I put another character, let us say, then the new line is pushed even further. Okay, new line is pushed even further. So I save it and I run it again and see what happens, whether everybody gives me. You see that it's still the same. So it is, even if I add some character, it doesn't really matter. Okay, what is that? It is still 2. So that part I cannot really control, how the white space is encoded in that. Okay, this will be up to the system. But if you want to encode now against the new line all the lines, that means you have the full line, and it's a totally useless exercise, because here you have only a single line and you are splitting against the new line. Okay, no, I think it's already understood. Any other questions? Because today is the time that we discuss about the questions. I have, as I said, I have some stuff today, and the major one will be tomorrow, which will be regular expression discussion. And I mean, first part will be about how you can write your Python program, where you can in the command line, when not on the notebook, but once you have a tool and you want to execute it on the command line, and if you want to pass some arguments to the command line in a nice way, okay, then how do you do that? These are the 2 things that are in my mind. So today I will only discuss some peripheral things which might be useful. So it is good that if you have questions. Are you saying in between 2 lines there is some white space which is assumed? So I'm saying all I was saying is that, so here I cannot see it, but there is a new line, because it was like this. When I put it, it was like this. So there is a new line. Okay. So, and from this line also there is a new line. There is a new line. There is a new line, and so on. So after everything, there is a new line, because there is a line break. What I am saying is that if this is a new line character and I split my line against the new line character, then my first field will be the whole thing because the new line sits here where the cursor is blinking. But then why the size will be shown to be 2? It could, in principle, size could be just 1. Because after that, I don't know, after the new line, I don't know whether there are any other characters which I cannot see. That is why, so the left hand side of the new line will give you the first fill, and the right hand side of the new line will give you another fill. And that is why if I look at the length of the fields array, I see on the left hand side, I see the whole line. On the right hand side, I see empty characters. That's what I'm saying. So I cannot really have full control about how to do that. On the other hand, new line is something which is not visible in. So if you put a visible in here, what will happen? Let's see what will happen. If I put it like this, maybe I have never tried that, but let us do it like this. And we try to first print the line, let us say. Okay, and we don't print anything here. And then we will see, I'll print this, I'll not print the other one. So you see that now it is literally coming. It is so this is, if you put a \n, it doesn't mean that it's a new line character. The new line character is inserted by the system in the file, and the encoding is done. It could be specific to how your system works. It's not a visible new line here. Okay, it's a character escape sequence. So against the escape sequence, how it is working, I exactly don't know. That is what I say, that why the if I don't have this, if I have the original thing, if I have the original one, then in principle the new line character is sitting here or sitting here. Okay, here, if that is the new line character, what lies after the new line character is not very clear to me. That's exactly what I'm saying. So what I'll try another thing and see what happens, whether that makes any sense. So what I will do is I will take the line and I will do the L strip. I'll just strip the white space on the left hand side, not on the right hand side, because I know then the right hand side contains the new line character. Okay, now let us see. I comment this out and I try to do it again. And we still see that there are two fields. Okay, when I split it, that means after the new line also there is a character somewhere, and we know that that's an empty space character, another empty space character. But these I cannot explain by looking at the file itself. But I said, if you take a single line and you split against the new line, actually you are not doing anything useful, because you are more interested in the content of that line. So you have to split against something like a space, like a tab, like a comma, etc., etc., not at the new line, because new line is after the line. And if you split against the new line, in the first field, everything will come and it will not really help you. It is as if the line itself. So it is like as if you have stripped it. So these fields will have only one useful character, which is as good or as bad as the line itself after you strip it. Okay, I think this much I can explain. Okay, so you understood, that is good. No, if you strip, the new line will also go. Unfortunately, there is no controllable way of stripping only the white space and not the new line. As far as I know, with the string, it will also strip off the new line. Then you cannot even you cannot even split against new line. So we can see if you are interested, we can strip. Now we strip it. Then you are saying that it's filled, so I have stripped it. That's a good idea to see what happens. And all of them, by the way, are not very standard. So I have the original file. That's fine. I have the original file. I have stripped it. So from the beginning, from the end, from both sides, I have stripped the white spaces. So that means the new line is also gone. And then it's a good proposition to see what happens. Okay, now see, there's only one. It's not even two. Because something will be there. It cannot be zero. So it's one. So what is that one? It will be the, so this will not work, but this should work. And again, this will be the whole line. So as you said, if you strip the new line and then also you try to split against the new line, nothing will happen. Okay, nothing will happen. It doesn't split. So the only if you have nothing works on the right hand side, the fields will be the line itself, and that is what you are getting, and the number of fields is 1. Okay. Okay, so what I hope if you have other questions about object orientation and stuff like that, we can also discuss. You can stop me. So what we are going to do today, let me just check. Yes, so first of all, I said yesterday that if, even an integer is an object in Python. So which I did not demonstrate because I did not have the example handy at that time. So let us say let us try to do it now. Okay, so I will just copy it to the notebook. So first of all, you see this very interesting line in syntax in Python. That means if you have to initialize a large number of variables in Python, you can do it in a single line. That's very concise, very succinct, and also very readable. So a comma b equals to 1 comma 2. It's like two tuples on the left and the right side. The initial and the left hand side would be initialized by the corresponding value 1 to 1 from the right hand side. So this also tells me that there is a very interesting thing, that if I ask you in another language, and I think many of you said that you know C++. So if I give you how to swap two values in C++, I think many of you will have to spend quite a lot of time doing that. Okay, so let us see how you can swap two values in Python. So I have a comma b equals to 1 comma 2. Okay, then if I type if I type a, it is 1. If I type b, it is 2. Now your quick quiz, lightning quiz, is how to swap these two variables so that b is now 1, a is now 2. Anybody? Very quickly. Yes.
So can we take a third variable?
Any number of variables. Yes, any number of variables. Okay, good. So you have already answered, but this is like a magic. No, something like this. And then you say B, then you say A. So what takes in C++ or C more than 5 to 6 to 8 lines of code in a high level language like Python, it doesn't take any. And I think it's not limited to only integer. If you have a swap support for the swap for a more complex object, then also it should work. But that support should be there. If it's an object, should be there implemented in the object. Here for integer, it is already implemented, so it's simple. But the concept, we have to bother about the concept here, that it's a absolutely beautiful feature of Python. Now, going back, let us use that. So now I will do whatever value, I don't care. So print type of a So it says yesterday that it's a class, that means a data type in the system, and the name of the type is integer. Similarly for B. If I say C equals to A plus B, which works, and then I do C, then also it's an integer. If I say D equals to, I think it's a special function, A, and you see that now I also have this, that's special function. So if I only give you A and B, you will think, without discussing it at all, you will think that it's a native integer, B is a native integer. So I can do operations. A equals to C equals to A plus B, or A minus B, A into B, A by B, or modulus B, etc., etc. But suddenly I am also saying this. That I can do this. D equals to A. Now I use A as an object, and I do this. A dot underscore underscore add underscore underscore B. If you know C, and you know that if I say integer A equals to 0, there is no way that I can access some method of A, because that is a really native data type A. It's not, it doesn't involve any object, but in Python it involves objects, and that is your operator overloading. So what we discussed yesterday, when Python developers developed the int class, they developed it exactly the same way, of course, in a much more rigorous way, with all the safety, all etc., etc., about the operator that are relevant for an integer. So for example, A plus B is actually equivalent to A dot underscore underscore add B. So now you can easily see that A looks like an object, because I can actually call a function or call a method on A, and this is valid. And if I look at the value, I see that it is 3, it should be C. If I look at C, it is also 3. And if if I take this one for D, and I see that this is also an integer. So if somebody is still, I mean, when we say that Python is built as an object-oriented language ground up, and then I say that the most primitive data type of any language is an integer, which probably everybody will agree with, and then I show you that even an integer is an object, because I can they support the integer supports object oriented approach also in terms of calling function, then you will probably agree or accept the fact that Python is fully object oriented. But it also supports procedural programming in the sense, and also mathematical operation in the sense of the fact that after the basic objects were implemented with operator overloading, you also gave them natural look and feel, so that they look primitive. Okay. Is that clear to you? How does it's not how does, it's exactly what I said. So if you remember that underscore underscore add underscore underscore, which you showed yesterday, I have to find that out, is an operator. If you implement that on an object, then that object can use the arithmetic operation, which is plus. So if plus is like a mapping, so in order to have the plus supported, you have to implement the underscore underscore add underscore underscore method. In order to have the minus supported, you have to implement the so we can check it here right away, not here. So if I say deed of A, you see that deed of A, which is an integer, actually has the add method. It should have the subtract method, okay, somewhere. sub method, it has the mul method, somehow multiplication, it has modulus, it has negative, it has not equals to, it has power, everything. Okay, so a large number of operators, which these are functions, and those large number of operations that you can do on the integer, they have one-to-one correspondence to a function from this list which I have just shown. So if you can implement some such functions, methods, member functions on that object, that means now you can use the notation, the operator notation for that object instead of calling the function. So instead of calling always calling a dot underscore underscore add underscore underscore b, if I implement underscore underscore add underscore underscore for the object a or for the object b, then I can say a plus b. That is the point. Okay, how does it work is simply that for that operator you implement the object following the grammar, the function following the notation that is given here. These are special functions. They start with double underscore, they end with double underscore. So you should never use such member functions in your own code to do something else. Okay, because then you are actually messing up with the operator overloading on that object if it is there. Okay. Is there any difference if we, yes, in this case, there is a lot of difference because these are very, very special functions. These are not your function. These functions are provided by Python and you should never touch them. You can implement them. You should not, of course, if you have another function called underscore add underscore, then that's a different function. That has nothing to do with operator overloading. You can introduce that function in your program. That will not really affect the system. But if for an integer, now if you again implement underscore underscore add underscore underscore to do something else like a modulus, then actually addition will break. Okay, then it will mean modulus, not addition. So that you should not touch. Okay, so user defined function can be renamed as we want, but can't change that is true. But you should not even touch it because in principle, Python doesn't have all this protection, the privacy and so on. So they gave you the hint that by the naming convention, they tell you that these are the functions which are absolutely private to the system. And you should never change the behavior of those functions. You can implement the function because all the list of functions which I have given here, they might be available for any object that you implement. That doesn't mean that your object already has all this implemented. Only the interface is defined. You have to now give the body of those functions. For integer, which you are using a or b in this example, these a or b are native Python object. That means they are already available to you when you start Python. So these functions, many of them are already implemented for this object. Your own object, these functionalities are only defined, only declared. They are interface. They are not called function. They are called interface, okay, in technical terms. And you have to implement the interface in order to be able to access those functionalities. Okay. Fine. So let us, so this, I think now you are convinced that this is something. The other formal definition that we discussed a little bit about module and package, but we did not define it. So now I'll just give a one-page definition. A Python module, because just to show you the hierarchy in a single place, a Python module is a file containing Python code. This I said. Okay, a Python mod, as simple as that is a any information, any Python code that you put in a file, you can call a module. But of course, when I say module should have a certain purpose. That means you should not put arbitrary code in a single file and call it a module. So you should keep only related Python code in a file and call it a module, so that that module, the name of the module, can tell us what exactly I can expect out of the module. So you just don't put arbitrary stuff. So if you want to have your own mathematical functionalities which are not available in Python, then you will put all your mathematical functionalities in a file and you call it mymath.py. Okay, so I know that you are doing some, you have some mathematical function, or you can also give better names. And then when I import mymath.py, then I know that I am importing some functionalities which is not there in the original math.py, but these are extra things, but related stuff. A package, after you have the module, a single module, in principle, a single module can if I think about object oriented programming, a single module can have a single class. Like yesterday we had track.py, single class. But a single module, that means a file, may also have more than one classes, related classes, not again arbitrary classes, related classes, which is possible. And then whatever you will import, you can import selectively or you can import blindly, everything. A package, on the other hand, will be a collection of such modules which again has some common purpose. And a project usually integrates different packages, this we know. And Python namespace is a combination of modules and packages. So these are four definitions which you should keep straight in your mind if you are really confused about what a module is, what a package is, what is a namespace, what the namespace could be, and what is a project. So project is of course your own idea, but the other three, the module, package, and namespace, are very specific ideas, and they are these are the formal definition of that. Now let us say a few things about idiomatic Python. So you are too young, but when Python started, Python has a motto. Python has a motto which said you should be able to do a single task in Python in only one way, not in many ways. But even the Python developers could not stick to that. That means there are many ways to achieve a single task. Okay, which is sometimes confusing. So that's why the concept of idiomatic Python came. That means although you can achieve a task in different ways, there is only one right way, which I cannot say right way because all of them give me correct result, one idiomatic way to do it. So you will see that there are even books on idiomatic Python, okay, which tries to tell you, if you follow, when you develop Python in this way, your code will be the most readable to others. That is idiomatic Python. So I will just take one or two such example. So idiomatic Python means write better, more readable, more maintainable code. And of course, you use the language's strengths to the fullest extent. One example, this is something that I have shown. If you want to really swap a value in Python, I'm not going to execute it. The C or C++ way is this: A equals to 5, B equals to 7, then you copy the value of A into a temporary, then you copy the value of B into A, so that now A is already written, and then you take you reassign B to temporary. So that way also you achieve the same thing. But this is the C or C++ way. And in Python, you do this. So now, if I had not shown you that example, which everybody, you answered correctly, and I just gave you this as an exercise. So for the novice, the first thing that will come to your mind is the first one, the novice approach. And for the, of course, you have to arrive at the idiomatic approach at some point. This makes your code much cleaner, and also idiomatic code doesn't only make your code much cleaner, it also helps the Python virtual machine to optimize your code in a much better way. So here you have introduced one temporary variable. Here you don't have any temporary variable. That means Python can now optimize away memory operation. And of course, you can say this is a small throwaway problem, which is correct, but this is conceptual. So if you do this in a much heavier environment, then your memory operation you should be able to have efficient memory operation. In that case, idiomatic one will be you will be using. Okay. Another one, let's see. I have, let us say, a list. Okay, this you all know. I'm just repeating. I have a list with three programming language: Perl, Python, and Ruby. Okay. Now, if I want to print something, okay, then I can do the C way. So for I in range length of P list, then print it. I hope. So let us. If you are confused, or if you are, some of you could be new. So what I'm going to do is I have this list and I want to print it. So I do if for, and in the C way I'll take the index. For index in, how do you get an index from a list? So you can do this. So one novice way is to do range of len of P underscore list. What does that mean? So this means len of P list means the number of elements that it has got. So that this will be 3. And range of 3 is 0, 1, 2. So I have to also Python 3, I also have to put list of range of len of P list. Okay, I think you already started to hate it. So this will give me print index. I can now enter and we say that it prints 0, 1, 2. So instead of doing this, I can also print now P underscore list, and because it's a list, in order to access some element, I will access like this. So 0 Perl, 1 Python, 2 Ruby. If you only want to print, the programming languages, not the indices, then you would do this. Now, can you write the idiomatic form of it? I am now on the chat box. You have already answered for L in P list. Yes, exactly. So just as a convention, there you will not put I, because I usually means index. So you can, and you are directly, when you are iterating over the array, then you are accessing the value. So I would prefer that you do this. You can also put I. Nobody will stop you for this, and you say V. Now you can see the beauty. I mean, if you have any confusion, that how clean your code has become compared to what you had here. So at one time, many years ago, we were using Python like that way. In Python, early Python 2, Python 1. And then Python improved its syntax in such a way that you have such a clean thing. So I can enter this, I get the same result. Now I need this. I need this. I not only want to print the the programming languages, I also want to put 0, 1 to the index number in front of it. Now what will be your take on it? One option is that what you see now, but I need a more idiomatic approach. So let me go to the chat box again and see who can answer. With index, yes, with index. I now, so I've shown you the result here, no? This result. Index, then the name. Index, name, etc. So if somebody gives me the full thing, then I will copy it from the chat box and try to execute and see whether it works, assuming that the initial list is already given. But I must say that we are only on the 5th lecture, so you should be able to recall the last 4 lectures. And there I said something. Yes, exactly. So Deep Jyoti, you have got the right thing. So you have this tool called enumerate. So if you pass a list to the enumerate, enumerate will return you a tuple, and in the loop context, it will continue to return you the tuple of the index and the value of each element. So thank you. If I do it, so what I will do is for I comma v. I is the index, v is the value. Instead of p underscore list, I will like this. I will say enumerate p underscore list, and then I will just print I comma v. Okay, so if I copy it from here, just to show you how clean, oops, it has become. So they give you the same result, but now you can see the clean Python. Okay, so this is idiomatic. This one is idiomatic. This was is novice. Similarly, this one is idiomatic. This one is novice. Both of them will work. This is, as I said, not only idiomatic. This will also allow you to not, for example, here you can see that you are calling len on a list already there. Then you are calling a function called list. Then you are calling a function called range. Then you are converting into first you have the list, you call len, you call range, then you convert them into a list, and then you take your action. And you also, I told you in the very first day that index accessing some array, some list through index is slow. So you have arranged for both code which is less readable, as well as it could be also less efficient. While this one, because of the temporaries or extra function that you are calling, and we know that every function call has some overhead. And here you have one function which takes care of everything, because everything, whatever is done, it is done as a temporary in memory. Okay, so you don't see them. So Python has enough way to optimize them away. So that way also, it is not only cleaner, it might be more efficient when you move to larger list. Okay. Okay, so this one, now another one. Similarly, you see, dictionary, I have not gone through a lot of detail, but now I will discuss a little bit. Let us say I have two lists, okay? One list and another list of the same size, because I want to now create a map or a dictionary, not map, let's not call it map, dictionary from two related arrays. So one simple option is to loop over one of them. So first you say that I have a dictionary, empty dictionary, and the signature of the empty dictionary is like that, players. Then you take the given name and you enumerate. So enumerate will give you, you can put the bracket or forget about the bracket. It could be a good idea to put the bracket if you want. I have not done that. I comma v, I comma v or n, whatever. And then what you say is that the players of n is the name now. This is, if I have the given name and I do an enumerate, I will be 0 first and n will be Sachin. So players, and you put Sachin here, equals to family of I. Family of I is the first element, which is Tendulkar. So as if I am creating a dictionary where the key name is the key and the family name is the value. And if I now print it, so I'll just run it here on the, stop me if you have issues. So this is my given, and this is my family name. This is the family name, and they should be one to one. Of course, you cannot really have random order. and the size should also be the same. So I can do that, and then I say for I say players equals to empty dictionary. For example, if you now print type of players, you can make sure that it's a dictionary, and then you are saying for I comma v, I got in enumerate, and then you just take the given, which is a list, and if you now type print I comma v, and you can see what we get. We get 0, 1, 2, 3, etc., which is the index, and Sachin, Rahul, Saurav, etc. So what I will do is I'll copy this one, and I'll say that players of v, that means the name is equals to family of I. Family of I. So if you do it, it works, and then you say players, you print players, and you see that this is the key, this is the value, this is the key, this is the value, and blah blah blah. So it's a very, it looks like a very idiomatic way of doing it, but still you are spending from here to here, from this is input, from here to here you are having 3 lines of code. One is the empty dictionary, and then you are having a loop and a manual loop, and you are doing it, and again you are accessing things to index. Okay, if it's a small dictionary, it doesn't really matter. If it's a big dictionary, it matters. So there must be a more compact way as well as more efficient way. What is that? I think some of you already know, and you have seen it in many places. In Python, there is a function called zip. Okay, zip takes like 2 arguments. Both of them are list. Zip may also work with other things, I don't know exactly. But if they take 2 compatible lists, okay, one is given, one is family, then it will actually combine element wise. So it will take one element from the given, the same index element from the family, and it will put them in a single collection. Then the next one and the next one, and so on. And if you now pass, if you really want to see that it is correct, you have to check the documentation of the dict class and see how you can create a dictionary object. What are the inputs that you have to pass? And you can see that you can actually pass. So let us do this first and see what happens. So what this one does. Okay, now that I have the notebook, I can do it. Okay, I can do it, and I can say it. It actually is something which is a zip, but it doesn't print anything. But if I do dict of, let's try to put it. See whether I can put a list here. Okay, what will happen if I put a list? And you see that now it has created a list of tuple, and this is what I wanted to tell you. This is, and with the notebook now you can see it very easily. So if I, with Python 3, of course, with Python 2, zip would just, this line would give you similar thing, but it is better that you explicitly do it. So if I take zip of given and family and I convert them into a list, then I see that this is a 4 element list, 1, 2, 3, 4, and each element of the list is a tuple. Each element is a list, is a tuple. Now, if you look at the constructor from the documentation, you look at the constructor of dict, you will find that dict can actually take such an input in order to create a dictionary. So if instead of this, if I do this, I pass the output of zip to a dictionary, then I can see that it will now create a dictionary. Instead of list of tuples, it has now created the dictionary, which was also there here. Okay, so once again, it may not be a bad idea to forget about these 3 lines, which also is not novice, but it is not very idiomatic either. Okay, and you stick to the most idiomatic one. Let's say, let's call it most idiomatic one. So you have to know about zip. Okay, and then you just pass the output of zip to dict. So this is very frequently used, because dictionaries are very frequently used in Python. And sometimes you have to create dictionary. You create dictionaries from in many different ways. One of the ways where you combine element wise two lists, then only this is the most idiomatic way. It saves you some time, because zip, etc., you don't do for loop anymore. I told you once again and again, in Python or any interpreted language, you would like to pass most of the responsibilities behind the scene, which is done in C, not in Python. Okay, and you try to avoid as much for loop as possible in Python. So if there is an alternative that because Python is written in C, Python is written in such a way that it, for every task, okay, it will try to call a C function by passing the argument. If it can do that, it's very fast. But if it has to do something on its own, in particular, if it has to do its own loop, it is slow. So that's why here, this is not only idiomatic, for large dictionaries, this will be absolutely mandatory, that you don't use this with a for loop, with indexing and so on, but you use the zip functionality. Okay, let's see whether I have some more. Okay, so there are few others. Okay, one is whether you want to use exception, or you want to check before you take an action. So the one thing is called look before you leap, LBYL. Okay, and the other one is easier to ask forgiveness than permission. So if I have a dictionary now, which which you have just seen, Sachin Tendulkar, Rahul, Dravid, blah blah blah, and I am looking for Anil Kumble there. Okay, so what I can do if I want to take an action, I first want to check whether the name that I have defined, if that name is present in players, then only I take some action. If not, then I say the key doesn't exist. So this is called look before you leave, and this is how the traditional programming works, where you check before you take an action, before you access an array index, a list with certain index. You first want to check whether that index is a valid one. So if your list has only 5 elements and you try to access the 1000th element, that's a problem. So you have to check that the element which you are accessing is less than len. Okay, if it is less than the length of the list, then only I will access, otherwise I will not. Similarly here, if the key doesn't exist, something nasty may happen here. If I try to access a dictionary with a wrong key, so I will not do that. I'll check it like this, and this is a very standard way of doing it. The other way of doing it is that I will access it anyhow. If it is not found, then Python will tell me that it is not found. Okay, so let us do it once more. So I have, okay, or I already have that, so I can start it from here. Players. So I have players somewhere. So I have this. This is fine, and then I do the look before you leap and see what happens. So this will fail. This this will fail. And if I do this, no, because this is old code. So it says key Anil does not exist. So you don't fail, because you did not even go inside this. And the other one, this is called exception. If you have faced it, it's good. If you have not, then this is the example of exception in Python. So what you do, you have a block called try. Within try, you try to access whatever you want to access. If the access failed, Python will not crash the system. It will try to find out whether you are actually trying to catch the exception, and the except keyword tells me that yes, I'm trying to catch the exception. And this is the key error, because this is the key, you know that. So Python already defines a large number of exceptions, errors, etc., etc. If your problem matches with one of those, then you can use the inbuilt exception. If it doesn't, then you can also define your own exception, which is advanced topic. I don't really want to discuss about it there. But what I'm doing here is that if this one fails, then it will come here, because I am actually trying to catch the error. So let's see what happens. So it also says there is a key error, because I'm looking for the key error. The key error is ONIL, and it also tells you where the error occurs, and so on. Okay, I can also add here print hello world, for example. And you will see that in Python exception, there is a finally keyword, which will be anyway, whether it will work or whether it will not work, it will go through exception, etc. The finally keyword will actually always be executed. This is also important. Sometimes you need it. Okay, so let's say that it will actually print both this and this. It looks like an if-else statement, but if I do it, then it says this traceback, but it also prints hello world. On the other hand, if instead of let us say here, if I say by hand Sachin, which means it works, then it will not really give me the traceback. It will only print this. Let's see whether it happens. Yeah, it prints this. So finally is the keyword, which will be always encountered in the try except block. It is called a try except block, and this thing is called exception in Python. Exception is a very high level feature of certain languages. Python has a very old and traditional exception mechanism built in, which is similar to C++, which is similar to Java, etc., etc. They are exactly the same, similar performance you can gain. And finally, so you have try, except. If there are more than one different one kind of error, you can also add them, except key error, except some other error, except some other error, etc. And finally, you have to probably put with else, and you go to finally, and finally will be always executed. You may ask why finally is needed. Let us say you have connected to you have an open file, you have a file handle open, okay, and you are taking some action on the file handle, and at that point something wrong happens and you come out of the program, but then the file remains open and the memory, etc., allocated are still associated with the file. So what you will like to do, if the file handle is a global file handle which is available everywhere, then before you move out of this block, you go to finally and you say, you try to close the file properly, and then only you go out of the out so from this place. So finally is needed if you have some resources that you want to release if some exception occurs prematurely, and you have to come out of the whole block. Questions? No. Fine. So as I said, these are very important ones, but still tidbits. Okay, so this is the exception. So if you you can read more about it. If I hope I will be able to share these slides at some point. So try, then you run your code, you do what, then you have except, you take some action, except. You have also else, if there is no exception, and then if you want to print something, if you want to do further computation here, you can do it. And finally, then it says always run this code. In whatever happens, before it leaves the whole block, it will go into finally. Okay, so that was idiomatic Python. There are more. I have just shown you whatever I learned. And to me, they are very essential if you have to have readable code. So I'll pause here for a moment. I have already spent 1 hour and a half almost. And then I have a few more little concepts to discuss about. If you have questions, then let me know. Otherwise, I'll take another half an hour. In between, I might take a 5 minute break because I have some personal work to do, and then I'll come back again.
Hi, Subir sir. You are
Yes.
sharing the screen. Maybe some.
Sorry.
You are still sharing the screen. Maybe
Yeah,
some.
no, fine. I'll stop sharing as soon as I need. Okay, I was checking my mail. That's right.
So, sir, can we also take 5 minute break?
Yes, we can. We can take. So let's take 5 minute break.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Okay, Okay, so I'll stop sharing. I'll also mute myself, and then we'll come back in, let's say, 11:40. Is that fine?
Yes, I think we can start in 11:14.
Okay.
Yeah, 14.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, I'm back. Do you hear me?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Okay.
Yes,
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
so let's spend another half an hour, 20 25 minutes. So another concept in Python that is a very high level concept and is called object serialization. Okay. Now that I have the chance of discussing this, I'll do it. This is an absolutely important concept in high energy physics, data analysis, because you know that, for example, when you read LSC data, CMS or Atlas or any other, actually those data are serialized as object in a file. So root has, even if root is not the best software, but root is the most advanced of all software in that sense that it can serialize object in a file and deserialize the same object from a file and on the fly convert into a live object. So if you have a live histogram, so you have a histogram, you define the histogram, I mean, book the histogram, you fill the histogram, you look at the histogram, okay, and then you at some point you say that I want to serialize that histogram in a file, and you do that, and the file format is called root file format, which is a binary file format. So root has all the capabilities, okay, very high level capabilities of serializing a live object into bits and bytes. Okay, so you serialize in a file, another histogram you serialize, another histogram you serialize, and so on. Not only serializes, it also compresses the information in such a way that it doesn't take unnecessarily any extra space in the file. And that's how CMS or Atlas can actually manage billions of collisions to store billions of information about billions of collisions, because root, even if you don't use root for any other purposes, you go to Python, you go to uproot, you go to any other tools, there are many tools, Python based tools, for the data format, for the data structure, you still stick to root, because root has this absolute capability of serializing and deserializing object into a file. So Python doesn't have that much of capabilities by default, and Python, nobody actually wanted Python to have that, because serializing and deserializing and compressing is also a very, very CPU intensive task, which you better leave to languages like C++ or Java. Okay, so I'm not discussing about root here, I'm discussing about Python. So we have very little that we can do. But let us say I have a dictionary, small dictionary, I have a list, etc., and I want to serialize them in a file. And later on, I pass that file to you. You open the file and you deserialize the file, and you get those objects directly. Okay, live objects. And the module which does that is called pickle. Okay, I'll just copy the whole thing and we'll see how it works. So let us say there is a module called pickle, and you can import the module. You can also, you know, that you can give a short name, and I just use the convention import pickle as pk. That means instead of writing full pickle, I will use pk here. Then I have a dictionary and I have another dictionary. Then I will open a file and dump in that file those two dictionaries and then close the file. Let's see what happens. So I just copy the whole thing. So I have a file, I call it stored.pk. Okay, so I enter and it thinks right argument must be string, not bytes, not okay, right argument. So let me first check whether I can write it on the I don't always believe I don't always believe the notebook because I'm not very pic.py. So print, where is print? Print. So it's the same. It says pk dump a comma f. The right argument must be string, not bytes. Arguments must be string, not byte. I have to find out whether, because there something must have changed in between. No, okay. So let us find a pickle. This example doesn't work. That means it was for Python 2, and I never updated it for Python 3. So we can take some other example. Pickle dumps. Dumps. Let's try dumps. Object. No. So let me copy this example because it's the same. It is also doing similar thing. And so this one. So here import pickle as pk. Then you have this dictionary, you have this another, this is written by an Indian for sure. Then you have a database, okay, where you put this is also a dictionary, by the way. Database, when you say database, it's a dictionary. And now this dictionary is a key to another dictionary. This dictionary is a key to another dictionary. This way you have a complicated data structure. And now for storing, you are doing b equals to so here you are not dumping in a file, you are simply creating a pickle, okay, a bytes class. So it may work. So let us see. No, it is not working. Pickle, okay. So pk and also pk, these two, fine. Okay, so now you can see. So what I had earlier is not anymore valid. So what you can do is you can have, you close this and you can have a file. Most likely. You can also check that. So I have one dictionary, another dictionary. I have a further dictionary where I added two entries, such entries with some string as the key. So then I convert them into a binary file, a binary information. Then I open a file and probably I put WB, and I have to then write most likely f dot write then b and close. This is what I wanted to check, whether I can actually write the pickle into a file, or whether, okay, I could write pickle into file. Okay, then in the next stage, so I have a file called store pk. So what is store pk? If I go here, lecture 3, store pk, a small one, and you will see that it's a binary file. Okay, it's a binary file, but it is created, and you can see few things, not everything. Now let us open it. So I will just take this one. I'll I'll just take my example. Where is that? This one. That I open the file, I load it again, and I try to print. I open the file. So open store pk. I say that this is a binary file, and this is in read mode. Then from pk I load f, and then I simply I say pk.loads of b, my entry. So is pk.loads f. So again, I have to find out how to open the. So here I am just opening the file. Then I am loading the file and getting something, and then I was. So this will not work. Essentially, this will not work. So up to that one, I have to find out. I have to find out how you can really open with Python 3 a pickle file and then read back the information. Okay, so read back the information. This you can check, because pickle with a file. So pickle you dump with a file. So this was AB binary mode. Then you dump. So this one is the one. Okay, so sorry, but I have to really. So if I take this example, then I have a DB file. Then I have destination. Then I close it. So similarly, I did it. So I convert into B. So then I open the DB file with open, and instead of this was AB, append maybe, AB, binary is A is append, I can make WB. And then it says pickle.dump, and I said write. So instead of saying this, I can say pk.dump directly. Then you take the DB and you take the file, something like this. This should also work. Okay, something like this. Okay, in principle this should also work. Let's see. And this I commented out. This worked. And then you open the file now again, RB, and you load. So these two lines. So instead of this, I'll first do this. I'll just take their example. So DB file is store.pk, then you load it with pk.load, and for keys in database you just print something, whatever you want to print, and let's see whether it works. So you can see that it works. So I don't know, so because of this hiccup that I have to take example from others, so the Python 2 code will not work anymore. So in Python, that is one of the problems, that is not backward compatible, but this example is good enough. So you have two dictionaries which you can see, and then you have another dictionary. These two dictionaries are part of this dictionary, and you use two keys. Okay, so then what you do is open a file, and as binary you store that overall dictionary into file and dump it. So a dictionary is an object which was a live object. It is now serialized into a file. You don't really care about how it is serialized. Then at some later point, or by somebody else, you pass this to, as if it's a root file, you pass it to somebody else with the same name, and he or she will open the file now in the read mode, but in binary mode nevertheless, is B, and then it will load the file so that the whole dictionary which you saved is now live again. So here it is you don't have many objects and so on. Everything comes into a, in this example, everything comes into a single dictionary. But in the earlier example, which I was showing, you are individually saving many dictionaries, like you are individually saving many histograms, and you could access them one after the other. But this is okay. So you get the dictionary, and now you loop over the dictionary, and for each key, you print the value, and you see that whatever you saved, now you can retrieve. So this is an important feature of Python. I would not say that it has a lot of high-level features in terms of serialization, but it has the pickle module, and also it has another module with the same name, but it's called C pickle. That means this pickle is pure Python. And if you have to do, if you are dealing with a huge dictionary, then it is slow. So you, in that case, you can use the C version of the pickle. Okay, C version of the pickle, and where am I? Then it will be faster, but it's exactly, the interface should exactly be the same, because I never tried it with Python 3, then I don't want to try it either. In Python, there is another such tool. I'll just name it. Maybe this example will not work either. It's, instead of pickle, you have called something called shelf. So you have another module in Python which is called shelf, which also you can use for similar purposes. And you will see, although this example will probably not work, so I'm not executing it. You will see that you import shelf, then you have a dictionary here, you have a list here, you open a file, okay? Then you add these two, like you did in the example which we have just executed. You add them to a database, okay? And directly you can see that this, when you add them to the database, you are directly adding them to the file. Okay, you are directly adding them to the file, and then you closing the file, and at some other point you opening it again. You are now saying that I want to read back, and whatever data you have read, you can print it. So to me, shelf has a slightly better interface. Shelf has a slightly better interface compared to pickle, because shelf is also a more recent module than pickle. Pickle is there for many years. So these are the two basic modules that I know about, where Python can actually take some data, whatever data you mean. You can put everything into a single data type, like a dictionary or something. Okay, so that you have only one entry to start with, even if it's very big. So if you have n number of lists, instead of writing n list to the file, you will put n list into another list, so that you have a single list or a dictionary, and then you write the dictionary. And when you read it back, you first read the dictionary back, and then extract your list out of the dictionary. But important point is that you can serialize and deserialize also Python objects in file or from file. So this is what I wanted to discuss. I think now the last one I have here. Okay, so I don't have anything else today. The last thing I want to start discussing, which I'll finish tomorrow, is called the introspection in computing. So let me check whether there are there are questions. Sir, sorry. Sir, so when we opening file F and again naming it A, so after making the change in A, it won't change original file F. Okay, I think I have already explained how it works. So you have a file and you have the data. So when you open the file, you give the file handle a certain name. Okay, even if because it worked, I think I did it correctly. Give it a name, and you have the data which you wrap into something, and finally you dump the data into the file. Okay, so the last thing is introspection. Introspection is the ability to determine object type, find attributes of an object, and capabilities of object at runtime. If you have not if you have not done that, we the only thing we have used so far is did. We saw that with did we can at runtime we can get a lot of capabilities of Python. And there are more. And so the important point is runtime. At runtime means when you are actually running. In the case of C++, when you are running the bare C++, basic C++, when you are running, the program is usually dumb. It doesn't have a lot of intelligence. Whatever you have done, whatever compiler has done, and then the program will just follow it and execute it. That way it is very fast because it doesn't have to keep a lot of information about the flexibility at runtime. On the other hand, Python is one language which has a lot of capabilities at runtime, and Python has to keep provision for those capabilities and runtime, and that takes a huge amount of resources from Python in terms of memory. That means it has to create a lot more information at runtime before you start the runtime. So that way runtime is good. It's very flexible when you develop something. When you run something, okay, long running thing, runtime may or may not be a very good idea. You should strip runtime capabilities, which you probably cannot. But if you could do that, it would be better. C++, on the other hand, does the runtime with an external package, which is good. That means you still have a lot of capabilities of runtime, but you do it only you are developing something. Once you are sure that I am developing is good enough and it should work, then if you don't need a lot of runtime, you can forget about the runtime capabilities. So once again, without the runtime information or introspection, root would not be like what it is today. So root has already implemented a lot of capabilities at the runtime. Okay, and there are certain tools in C++. One library is called Reflex, and the recent root, at least some recent root has the runtime information implemented through Reflex. So sometimes it's called reflection, and for some other languages it is called introspection. Okay, so by default C++ has very little support for introspection, and C++ calls it a different way. It's called runtime type information. So there are many names: introspection, reflection, runtime type information. Okay, Java has very extensive support for reflection. Python, of course, it's an integral part of Python. So Python is actually built with runtime in mind. So anywhere, everywhere you get runtime information in Python. Okay, so with that, Python runtime, the introspection tools, one tool is of course dir, which you have seen. The other tool is type, which you have seen. The other tool is str, which you have seen. Very similar to str will be repr, or representation, which we have not seen. Okay, so if for example I give you one example, that at runtime you want to check whether certain object is a daughter object of another object. Okay, if you want to do that, then you say whether object dot, not object dot, an object is subclass of certain other object. So you can use the runtime tool, the introspection tool, is subclass. If you want to check whether an object, sometime object A, because in Python you don't specify the type. C++ has this advantage that if you want to create an object of type my class, you say my class A equals to new my class. In Python you would simply say A equals to my class. Now you, in your code, at some other point A, you don't even know whether it came from my class, because that was 2000 lines before this line. So you have forgotten whether A is my class or not. But if I do print type of my class, it will tell me that it is coming from the data type my class. But programmatically, how do I know it is coming from my class, this object? So you can always check with something called is instance. Is this object an instance of my class? Then it will return a Boolean yes. So there are many different tools and capabilities at runtime of Python, which I think I will not today. I will finish, and tomorrow we will just talk about these ones: the get attribute, has attribute, and set attribute, and maybe this tool. There are also tools which refer to modules, but you don't really need all of them. And there is a lot of references. If you want to know more about it, you can know it. But our only so this one is done, this one is done, this one is done. uh, we will try to discuss about these three attributes tomorrow, which is important, which you will be using it from time to time. And this you will, if you if you have to use it, then that is a failure of the program. Okay, that if I have to check explicitly whether something is an instance of something or something is a subclass of something, it's not a very good, at least not for me, it's not a good idea. Okay, for compiled languages you cannot do it. That means you don't need to do it also. Without needing it, you can do it. But if you, I mean, the provision should be there. But has attribute and get attribute, they are very important, okay, to understand how the whole Python system is working. So I'll stop now here today, because we were doing very tidbits discussion today. Tomorrow, the last lecture, I will mostly spend on regular expression, and before that, I will just show you 2 or 3 examples on introspection, and that will be the end of this Python course, which I think deviated quite a lot from what I did last time.
Okay. So I think
Because
okay, there's a question.
so idiomatic approach. So if I have a long code, so should I write everything clearly in argument, or should I make more comments? Very good question. More comments and long arguments look bad. I mean, there is always a compromise. If you can, because there are many suggestions. One suggestion is that all the variable names should be expressive. Okay, if we discuss that if you have some work which you can move to a function, okay, if you are repetitive work, you should move to a function. For loops, you should be able to replace with more appropriate thing. The less comment you use in your code is more readable. The more readable your code is, the less comment, the more readable is your code. So you never write exactly the very exactly or precisely the comment. So if I start writing comment, maybe for 3 lines of code, I will write 3 lines of code. That is messy. If you can use 2 or 3 words and express what you are doing in the next 3-4 lines, that makes sense. So if you do comments, try to be very, very precise. Okay, if instead, if you want to if you say that this variable does that, that variable does that, you don't do it. Instead, you name the variable. Even if the name of the variable is slightly long, you try to make the name of the variable expressive enough. Okay, I can this afternoon I can send the slides. Okay, whatever I did, but as I said, I have not deviated much up except today from the last time. Okay, so whatever I provided, I have already provided my web page. So I will try to put these new slides in my web page. So if you check it back again in the evening, you will find it.
Sir, can you please paste the link of your web page again?
Yes, so you can go here, and if you go here, you'll see in my web page the first section is teaching. Okay, there you have a section called Python, and I have tried to put all the lectures and videos, etc., for the ML4 HEP last year, and also I will add this year's one. Okay, I also wanted to mention to people, because last week I gave 3 lectures on Linux commands. Okay, and I guess because the attendance was very poor, so I am guessing that none of you attended it, or maybe a few of you. But you can always go back to these lectures. There are a video also. I mean, the Zoom recording, and you can, if you want, you can check those slides as well, because that might be also needed for the school that you will be attending in June. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Why are you using external list operation in for loop when range is already going to yield a list? What do you mean by that? Which example are you referring to, Saurabh?
Sir, I am referring to the example where you were using a external list operation in for loop outside the range.
Let me check which one you really meant. Because today we only discussed about this idiomatic part. This one, this one, this one,
So, sir,
this,
if you're using range, then yes, sir, this one.
this one.
List of range of length. Yes, sir, this one.
So you are saying that this list is not needed.
Yes, sir. At least in Python 3, I think range is already going to yield a list, so that is not necessary.
Okay, okay. You can check that. We can check. Maybe it is correct. Just for safety, I always do it. Yes, this works. But for example, if I do this, and let us say if I do L equals to okay, if I do this, and if I and you see that it doesn't give me the range. So maybe in the for loop it does. Okay, in the for loop it does, but if I do it, if I save that
Right, sir. In the
this
for
one
loop, it will
to
automatically consider it as a list, I think.
yeah, maybe yes. So usually I always forget this, so I try to be safe and put list also there. But yes, in the for loop,
So if
it
you try to
as
write
you
print L, then it will probably execute the list. If you write print L.
repeat. Can you repeat?
So if you write print L, then probably it will yield the list.
Okay, but I mean printing is slightly different. No, I want to save it in a variable. So you are saying that if I do this, then it will force a list, and probably also it's the same. Okay. You see that on the notebook, I mean probably only for when you use it directly in a for loop or a while loop or in some other expression, it is converted into a list. But if I either save it, so I mean for consistency, I always put, even if it looks ugly, I always put a list so that there is no harm, except for the readability is little bit less. Okay.
Okay.
But anyway, at the end of the day, in this example which I have shown, that was not at all idiomatic. You will not do that. You will do either this or this. You will not use range at all. Okay, other questions? Okay, if there are no other questions, then
Yes, I think if there are no questions, then we can proceed with the quiz, maybe.
yeah, I can stop presenting, and then I think you can.
Yeah. Okay. I
I'll also
think
mute.
the standard way is to share the link of the quiz.
You will send that link in the chat box or
Chat
send a
box.
mail. Okay.
Maybe
And
chat box is fine.
yeah, chat box is fine, but everybody should use their particular email ID which was shared, so that only that one should be used.
Yes, the mail that they have used to attend this session, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that would, I think, automatically. So
And
I am
counter,
pasting. Yeah.
yeah,
Please go.
send paste it, and the counter should go means 20 minutes. No.
Yeah, it's a 20 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah. So by that time, if somebody finished, they can leave that room, this room, after submitting. And after 20 minutes, means probably at 19 minutes, give a warning, and then at 20 minutes, it will be closed.
Okay. Yeah. Sure. Okay. I pasted the link. Everybody must be able to see this link. So I think your time starts now. It's 12:16. Okay. If you have any questions, you can please ask.